Hey everyone, welcome. Thank you for tuning in to today's conversation, digging into your historical data to drive maximum fundraising results. I know analyzing data might sound like a bit of a drag, but I'm here to assure you that the nuggets you'll find in your data are nothing short of game-changing. I'm Misty Marquam, Marquam Agency's founder and principal benefit auction specialist and fundraising consultant. And today I'm joined by my rock star team of fundraising enthusiasts. Sarah McMahon, you may know her as our ops and marketing maven, but she's also a complete and utter data geek, and we love her for it. And benefit auction specialists and fundraising consultants, Annie M. Luthrow, Amanda Valley, Eva Zore, Christine DeCastro, and last but not least, Molly May, who all love to dig in and find out what's driving fundraising success. We have some fantastic information to share with you today, so let's dive right in. First off, data really is fundraising's MVP, but why is data such a big deal? Anne-Marie, give us the scoop.
It's a great question. I think the more you know, the smarter you can be, the more money you can raise. The good news is that if you already have had an event or a fundraising campaign, you already have data. So it's available for you and you can use it. And that can only make you stronger. It's like a roadmap. So it tells you what you've done and where you've been. And then it can tell you where to go and how to get there. So at the end of the night, the numbers might tell, the big picture of where you're winning, but knowing your data, when you really break it down, can tell you where you want to turn things up a little bit, where you want to hit the brakes, where you want to change things. So it's both, anecdotal data is important too. But don't be afraid of the data. A lot of people are afraid of the numbers or they don't understand the numbers. It's really not that confusing. If I can figure it out, you can figure it out. Befriend it. It will serve you. You kind of have to take a breath. You have to look. It's like getting on the scale. It can be a little scary at first. You have to know where you're starting though. And that's how you know where you want to go and how to get there. So figure out what resonated with your donors and your sponsors and your supporters, whether it was the campaign, the event, the revenue streams, what you did prior to the program, in the program. Figure out what was successful, what was fun, what flopped, what took up a lot of time and maybe wasn't worth it. Your data knows and your people know. So look at your numbers and then talk to your crew, talk to the folks who were there to fill in anecdotally what those numbers are showing you. So it's like a cheat sheet, it's just a smart way to fundraise. You just have to dig in.
I love it. So data is basically the ultimate fundraising and development crystal ball, as it may be. And it reveals how folks prefer to support the org. So I love that. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Yes.
All right. Molly, let's talk about spotting donor trends and their preferences. How does one use data to figure out what folks actually care about?
Yes, well, data is like getting a backstage pass into your supporters' minds. So you can see which events, which auction items, which incentives, which campaigns they love and respond to, and which ones they're just kind of meh about. So ask yourself, are certain donors or sponsors giving the same amount every year? If so, maybe it's time to nudge them up to the next level. So think about innovative perks, think about incentives, challenges, matches, 1-to-1 matches, 2-to-1 matches, and good old-fashioned relationship building. You should be crafting strategies that get folks intimately involved in your work. So perhaps volunteering or taking a site tour or meeting executive leadership. I mean, maybe they would love it if you crafted a social media campaign or email template they could personalize and use to send to their families and friends to raise awareness and get others involved on your behalf. So also, if donors suddenly ghost you, data can also help you figure out how to win them back and where exactly you're losing them. Did you properly thank them after your last event or after making a significant gift? Do you do any personalized outreach? How are you nurturing your relationships with folks all year long? Not every donor or sponsor is the same. So you need to think about what they want to hear about and how they want to hear about it, and how often they want to be communicated with. So really think about them individually. Think of your donors and sponsors as an extension of your mission. So empower them to tell your stories and raise awareness for you. Remember, they support you because they believe in your cause. So think through how to not only maintain, but grow your relationship. And remember that lapsed donors are easier to connect with and less expensive to re-engage than finding new ones. In fact, I'm going to read you a data point down here. So according to the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, donor recapture rates are around 4 to 5%, while new donor acquisition rates are more in the 1.5 to 3% range nationally.
So basic math suggests that keeping our current supporters happy is a much better investment than always having to find and cultivate new ones. That makes so much sense. Thank you, Molly.
Yes, 100%. With clean data, you can level up your fundraising game at events too. So for example, if paddle raises are crushing it year after year and growing, that's your cue to lean in. We're seeing participation at the special appeal increase on average from 60% up to 80% these days. So that's because more folks in the room can participate in a paddle raise, whereas you'll see somewhere between around 10 to 20% participation in a live auction. So this is why it's extremely important to ensure you're only including live auction packages that are compelling and inspire the competitive bidding. Less really is more these days. And trends are showing a decrease in the number of live auction packages in favor of fewer, more valuable and desirable packages. So if you can come up with a package that directly relates to your mission, that's all the better. Then on the flip side, if no one's bidding on that weekend in Vegas, maybe retire that one next time. Or if any of your raffles or live auction items are sagging in sales and price, perhaps it's time to rethink those strategies too. If you're not sure where to start, ask your donors. This could be a direct conversation. It could be a survey to your distribution list. And be sure to remember that every touch point you have with your supporters is an opportunity for storytelling and sharing the impact that they directly have on the mission. So take advantage of every opportunity.
That's fabulous. So the takeaway here is allow data to help you focus on what works. I love it. Thank you, Molly. Now, Eva, let's get a little bit personal. How can data help nonprofits connect with their donors in more meaningful ways?
Absolutely, guys. This is where the magic happens because data helps you know your people. Who are your ride or die donors and sponsors, and who's been loyally showing up year after year after year? I don't know about you, but my email is flooded with calls for help and donations. And you really have to find the way to stand out. And the way to do that is relationships. So once you have that data, roll out the red carpet for those folks who are loyal, who are showing up for you, and cater to what you find out. Think curated, more unique sponsor perks, early access to events or insider info, mission forward activities, shout outs, or a handwritten note that says, "You're amazing, we see you, and we thank you." It means so much to people. Better yet, build those relationships in person. Like I said, nobody wants to be another person in an email list. So find out what drives your most loyal supporters and give them more of that. And don't be afraid to offer different things to different folks based on what you find out about their desires or ties to your mission based on the data. We're always coming back to the data. So keep on showing them the love in all the ways that the data tells you to.
Amen. Loyal supporters definitely deserve the VIP treatment, and a robust gratitude campaign is always a fabulous idea too. Thank you so much, Eva. Now, Christine, you're up, girl. Let's talk about one of my favorite topics, special appeals. What's the secret sauce there?
Great question, Misty. Use your data to make people feel like the heroes they are. Look at who's giving at each level and think about how to nudge them up. Add fun stuff like challenge matches or exclusive giveaways and strategies, and you'll see those numbers climb.
Excellent advice. Thank you. What about sponsors, Christine? You're definitely the sponsorship whisperer. Tell us more about that.
Oh, yes, the sponsors. We can't do it without them. So generally, sponsors want to feel like the rock stars they are while promoting their business or showcasing its support for your organization in every way. Your data shows you which sponsors have been loyal, who's ready to give more or jump up, and what perks they actually care about. Maybe they don't even want that sponsor table. They'd rather have a shout out during the program or their logo on your live auction paddles. or perhaps a promo video in the pre-show presentation, or email to your donor list in advance. Highlight why they support you. The goal is to make them feel like you get them and are delivering those things that they really want and care about.
100%. I always tell people, stop treating sponsors like individuals or like table hosts. So I want to pose a couple of questions to get you really thinking before we move on. Do you as an organization rely on a sponsored table model for your events where you grant every sponsor X amount of tickets? Do you look at the sponsored table giving data, and how is that working out for you? Is it perhaps time to innovate? So think about that. We're going to get back into it. And Amanda, let's talk event logistics. How can data save nonprofits from the chaos at fundraising events?
When it comes to event planning, historical data shows you what your guests love. For example, in pre-event revenue streams, and this is what you're offering to your guests during like the cocktail hour, or even online, maybe a few days before the event, you have to identify which performed well and maybe which you need to take off of the bench for a few seasons and make people miss again. Like for example, are you offering a wine wall because you've always had a wine wall? And I think the question to ask yourself now is, should you have a wine wall again? How much time and energy went into that silent or online auction? Are you getting a strong ROI, which we all know means return on investment? And that in this case is revenue earned versus the labor hours spent procuring items. Or should you take all of that energy and focus it somewhere else? Lean into whatever worked and do more of that. And remember, this can change over time. So never stop reviewing and digging in. Data also helps with things like determining how many volunteers you'll need and staffing, so you're not wasting time or money, like a dessert dash. Now, if you love it and your guests love it, it's making money, maybe it deserves a volunteer captain and a team. Just like maybe on the other side of the coin, anecdotally, it's past its prime. Maybe it's time to sunset this tradition and you're not really getting a good return on it and your team dreads it. Maybe that team should be redirected to do something else to raise money for your cause. Basically, it's like having a playbook for running a more streamlined event.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you, Amanda. Christine, let's bring it home, sister. How does one use data to turn one-time donors into lifelong fans?
Well, it's really all about paying attention. Spot your consistent supporters and shower them with love. And for the folks who have fallen off the radar, reach out. It's that simple. Share a great story about the impact you're making and re-invite them to be part of your legacy and impact once again. It's about making donors feel like they matter, because they really do. In fact, I'd recommend really tailoring a recapture campaign to target lapsed donors. They loved you once and they probably still do. So call them back.
True fact. It's really about building and maintaining those actual relationships, not just about raising money. So I'm going to pose a few more questions here. I'd love you to just consider, what types of retention strategies do you implement post-event or campaign to retain or cultivate your donors? Very important that you do. Do you use different strategies and custom communications for lower level, mid-level, and high-level donors and sponsors? You should be. And finally, do you have a dedicated person focused on cultivating beyond just major gifts and donors? Food for thought. And if you have any questions about these things, reach out to us, because we definitely would love to have this conversation. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of how we crunch your event data and turn it into something a little more useful. And Sarah, AKA the data detective, you're up. How does this happen?
So first off, you want to pull all of your event data from your event registration software. You want to look at ticket sales, sponsorship, auction reports, appeal, even guest check-ins. It's super important to look at that data and make sure that it's accurate and properly formatted. Also, tracking it in one place. I think one of the biggest pain points I see with our clients is that you're tracking your data in different platforms, whether it be an Excel spreadsheet and then some in event registration software, and maybe you're using a different platform to solicit donations on your website, you really need to think about consistency in how you collect and crunch those numbers. So definitely thinking about how you format things and keeping those formattings consistent in all the different areas that you are tracking the data, so that when you combine it all makes sense and aligns. Then you can actually start reviewing. You can notice patterns, you notice trends, which revenue streams really crushed it, which ticket levels sold best, who are your top donors and sponsors, and also are you indicating or seeing any lapses? Are there opportunities for up-leveling? And as you look at the data, you will start to see those patterns, and then you can start strategizing around what you will be doing for future campaigns or events.
Fabulous information. But what do we do once we have all these insights? Like, how do we make something out of the data?
We want to make it look visual. So I love infographics that are clear and colorful. Also, infographics get people excited when your team is reviewing things and they're easy to understand. I think the more visual they are, the more people will lean in, and then you can connect the dots. What's working, where we need to grow, and how to use the info for your next campaign.
Love it. Thank you so much, Sarah. Here's a couple more questions for you just to think about. Who is reviewing your event data and how often? Put it on the calendar, perhaps. Make it a ritual that you just never miss because, as you've heard, data is really important. What insights or metrics do you wish you had but you don't currently see or know how to find? And think of ways to gather more of that type of information. 3, what are your biggest challenges when gathering or analyzing your event data? And perhaps we can help you if you're having struggles here. Let us know. And finally, would you like support reviewing your data? We kind of like it. Definitely, we are in for this. Ladies, do we have any final thoughts? Anne-Marie, why don't you kick us off? What about final thoughts on best practice?
Well, I think number one, collect data. That's the best practice. I think that's really what we're preaching. Number 2, collect it in a manner that it's not just making sense for you, but it's making sense for the next team who may have to use it or the next person who may have to use it. So as to Sarah's point. And then I think both empirical and anecdotal data are important to gather. So if you have, we made $5,000 doing this or $50,000 doing this, then talk to the folks who did this, whatever this practice was, and find out anecdotally how much manpower it took, how much fun it was, how the crowd reacted to it, things like that. So there are several facets, different ways to look at the data, but collect the data and refer to the data.
Great points. Christine, do you have any final thoughts?
Yes, donor retention. Donors are the beating heart of all of our organizations. They are our backbone. So they should not be hearing from you 4 weeks out from your event. Get that gratitude campaign going right after the event and make them feel part of the organization. We want to be sure that they are feeling inspired and they are educated on what you all are doing. So remember, it's easier to keep those donors that already have bought in and support your mission rather than going out and finding new ones. So do the work and keep those donors happy.
Real nuggets. Molly, what were your final thoughts?
Yeah, well, mine kind of go hand in hand with what Christine just said. Good marketing happens all year round. So when you think of your marketing campaigns, think about it month over month, not just during your fundraising events or when you're trying to raise money. Put together a marketing plan for the entire year that targets your full database of donors at every level. So segment and think about new targets. Think about how you can reach new donors who might be interested, marketing through those who are current donors. So get creative about that. And remember to involve your major donors who'd like to be involved. How can you pull them in to partner with you in your next marketing campaign?
Great question. Eva, What do you have
I'd
to
like
say?
to say it's all about relationship building, because if you're not using your data to nurture that, then what are you doing? Because we all know what it feels like to be in a one-sided relationship and to feel underappreciated. So don't be that org. Nurture the relationship and the connection with your donor. They've got lots of orgs. They've got lots of things reaching out to them, scrambling for their attention, their time, and their money. Especially these days, it feels like there's just constantly something in need, and there's constantly things that our attention's being pulled on. So don't forget the golden rule of fundraising. Treat your donors like you would want to be treated as a donor. They matter, their time matters, their money matters, and their devotion, we see it, and it's very valued. So just you cannot neglect this piece of it.
Great advice, Eva. Thank you. Let's bring it home, Amanda.
Well, this is very timely because I was just talking with a client about this the other day. It's about revenue streams, and more is better. And actually the answer is intentional is better. You know, you don't want to just throw a bunch of revenue streams out there thinking that you're going to make a lot of money. We've all been to the state fair and we've seen that one food booth that no one is going to because it doesn't appeal to everybody. You don't want that at your fundraising event. You might be creating more of a headache for you and your volunteers. But also you have to think about what you're selling, the retail values of those items, and your audience. Depending on the organization, paying a ticket price may be a stretch for some of your most passionate supporters. And so you need to incorporate kind of a lower buy-in experience for these attendees. And that's where a revenue stream can really help, because you want to train and develop philanthropists in your community, and meeting them where they're at when they're passionate about supporting, but maybe a little low on funds, will help you build goodwill and equity with those folks later on. With that said, you don't have to do heads and tails just because you saw somebody else's organization do it and they made a bunch of money when they do this and you do that and they had 500 attendees and you have 100. It's not going to be the same. So think about what it is that you need to do to make everybody feel included in your event, and use that to kind of drive your revenue streams, as well as wanting to make some more money.
Ah, I love it. What great nuggets. I hope you've all gleaned some amazing information about how you can put your data to work. I'd like to thank my team, and a huge thank you to you for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. Just remember, data isn't just a bunch of reports or spreadsheets. It's a secret. It's the secret. It is the secret to understanding all of your donors, all of your sponsors, what they want, how to engage them. And it'll reveal their behavior and key indicators, as well as hopefully raise you more fun while you change the world. So if you need help, or if you want us to analyze your data for you, just let us know. Reach out. Send us any feedback, questions you have to ops@marquamagency.com. We always love knowing what's on your mind. Cheers to successful fundraising using your data. We will see you next time. Bye, everybody.